This year's IAE sees the introduction of 3 new flyable ships: the Drake Cutter, the Drake Corsair, and the Anvil C8R Pisces. There is a lot of discussion surrounding the flight characteristics of these ships, and so it is time we take a closer look. How do they really fly? Let's start with the Cutter. She's a bit of a brick, looks like one, flies like one, rightfully so. That's not to say she flies bad though. She's extremely stable and easygoing on the pilot, just like an Aurora for example. Perfectly docile and forgiving. In level flight, a touch of strafe up will see the nose pitch up gently, while inputting lateral thrust will see the Cutter gently yaw along with the inputs. And these are great indications as to whether the thrusters and aerodynamics are working well together or not, and the Cutter gets an A+ here. There's no real instability to be found, no crazy kickbacks, opposite pitch attitude or stall behaviors, just a relatively slow ship with gentle thrust control and a predictable handling overall. The Cutter comes with VTOL of course, which operates as well as any other ship with VTOL right now. VTOL is one of those things I personally believe still needs a lot of love from CIG, something I'm sure they will get to when it comes to control services and final tuning for master modes. I have a lot to say on VTOL, but we'll reserve that for another video. For the Cutter, VTOL works as suspected, giving lots of strafe-up power, which also introduces a really important side effect. The main engines that are rotated into VTOL position also include the retro thrusters. So it is important to note that when toggling to VTOL, we lose almost all retro thrust stopping power as well. Careful when approaching that hangar with VTOL engaged. The Drake Corsair sees flight characteristics that are broadly discussed. Is it too slow, too unpredictable, out of balance? No, I don't think it is. If this is CIG setting a precedent for what can be expected from ships of this size, I think we're in for a treat personally. I personally love ships that feel like they carry weight, and a great way to balance these ships is to tone them all down a little bit in terms of their speeds. The Corsair comes with very slow rotationals, especially the yaw. But it feels good, it feels appropriate. And the same goes for the general thruster strengths. You have to really think ahead of what you're going to do with the ship, where you want to go, and what thrust inputs and rotations will get you there. If you're not careful, the ship has a tendency to pitch down suddenly, but I will say that it can be caught. You can avoid it if you're flying it smartly. And I think this is something in general we ought to be more aware of. I hope in the future, when control services come in and all the ships get their final tuning, that we have to be more thoughtful of how we pitch or yaw into turns, how we hover, and that not all thrusters are able to carry a ship without consequence. Anyway, I understand the pitching will be improved for 318. Toggling VTOL on this one has an interesting effect as well. It will improve roll rates and allow for tightening up the turns, which is great, but it does feel a little awkward toggling the binary VTOL on and off mid-flight, so it will probably sit ignored unless we're coming in for a landing. And then even maybe, since it hovers just fine without VTOL. And again, VTOL, topic for another day. Oh dude, your left wing is so... Oh dude, your left wing is slower. Remember, you almost hit the ground, like literally. So close. C8R Pisces is the newest installment in the Pisces series and is supposed to, being a rescue vehicle, demonstrate improved speed. This is mentioned in the ship description as well as in yesterday's Inside Star Citizen release. Unfortunately, right now at least, there is absolutely zero difference. The C8R sees identical performance to the C8X in both thruster power, mass, and aerodynamics. I did notice that the listed SEM speed on the website is slightly higher. It is important to note that SEM has absolutely no effect in game right now. A ship sees identical performance, regardless of whether they are flying below, on, or above SEM speeds. And I have to add that I hope that CIG won't be tweaking these ships to a higher SEM when it comes to master modes and calls it a day, because this would mean that the only thing that changes is top speed, and if we're flying QCM for example, where the speed is unrestricted, we would see no difference at all. I think it's important with ships like this that we balance them appropriately. Personally, I would like to see the C8R hold a higher mass because of all the medical stuff on board. Combine that with stronger main thrusters only, meaning that it would still fly faster in a straight line without affecting its maneuverability. I understand that we see the same kind of behavior on the freelancer ships, where some of them are heavier with main thrusters being stronger, while others are lower in mass with weaker thrusters. And this is a really cool way to tweak a ship's character between variants. Now in general, I really love how the Pisces flies. She's a bit like a slower Razor, plenty of maneuverability, not too fast. She carries a bit of a buck when it comes to aerodynamics, but not too many, lots of yaw action, and in general, she's just a beauty to fly. And that's all I've got for you today. 3 new ships, 3 very different flight characteristics, lots to think about in terms of the future, and I cannot wait to ramble on more about VTOL, control services, and master modes. It's taking too long. Where is he?
Where is he? You gotta wait for the door to open.
Where is he? There he is. Your gear's down. Your gear. Oh, that's ugly. 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 No, where are you going?
Don't look at me.
Oh, no. What the fuck is that? What is this data? We will.